Alright YouTube, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. So it is a little bit chilly today, but yeah, we are gonna talk about hand traps. This upcoming 31st will be the implementation of the new Banlist for Master Duel. And with that, we'll check out the best hand traps for the game. So we will put into consideration also the Cashtira's coming in, even though we don't have the Arise Art. Yeah, and also Purelies are coming in, so that's one of those. Let's see one of the best cards that you can use, or the hand traps that you can use against Purely. Our category is gonna be like deck worthy, so any good cards or staple cards you can put into this category. Situational cards, they're good in some of the decks, but not all. Decent cards, really good, but it really depends on the deck that you're using against. So yeah, maybe a tech card probably is the best suit for this row, are flat out non-meta. So these are the cards that, you know, doesn't really work well even after the ban list. So first and foremost, we have Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom, Max C, and typically Imperm are your staple cards in your deck. Whether or not you're running meta or non-meta decks, these cards will always be a part of your deck. That occupies 9 slots in your deck or your main deck. And even with the 1 negation on the board from the Imperm can possibly win you the game. A drop of Max C will stop your opponent from doing more combos, and basically stopping your opponent from searching a card, somewhat detrimental in most cases there. So, and then we have Bishils. So Bishils, I forgot Bishils before, but yeah, Bishils are a really good hand trap. I'm going to put them on deck worthy. Even after the ban list, we'll still have tier elements branded sprites. Even though they're slightly nerfed, they're still going to be really reliable for most of the decks. What else? Dragon Links is one of them as well. So majority of these 4 meta decks are light and dark. So they are a really good target for Bishils if ever you're trying to revive back a monster. Or yeah, recycle back a monster, or spin back a monster for that matter, from for tier elements. Having a 2/5 body on the field as well makes it really insane for this archetype. Even just using Magnamut and Drewsworm in your deck as an engine is kinda good. The only downside for this is typically you are only targeting light and dark. So against some non-light and dark decks, Bishils is kinda hard to actually summon to the field. And basically you'll have a Garnet or a Brick card. DD Crow. So DD Crow is the lesser version of Bishils. I'm gonna put this one on decent. I'm not gonna put it on non-meta. The reason for this being, DD Crow is still a really strong card. Although you have the similar effect as Bishils, but the only downside for Bishils is they only target light and darks. DD Crow, however, targets a card. The only downside for this is you can't banish a card from your graveyard, just your opponent. But that is still a really strong effect though. But to an extent, I mean, because Cashtira's don't really use the graveyard that much. Purelies doesn't really send cards to the graveyard, especially their spell cards, because they basically absorb them. Then you have the Shifter. So Shifter is really situational. It depends on the deck that you're using. So decks like Floowandereeze, Exosisters, Cashtira's nowadays are still using him. And even after the ban list, we'll still have Shifter played in on 2 copies or backs against the current meta, or against meta decks. Drulin Lock. So here we go. Drulin Lock. I'm gonna put this one on situational. Currently, Drulin Lock is non-meta, but after the ban list, it's really good. If we are gonna include Cashtira's and Purelies by next month, so Drulin Lock is one of the best cards that you can use up against those decks. So Purelies keeps on adding more cards from their deck to their hand. You can drop a copy of Drul, and basically they can't acquire more materials from their deck. Second of all, Cashtira's has a knack of getting more resources out as well from the copy of the Unicorn or the Fenrir. And then we have Effect Veiler. I'm gonna put Effect Veiler on decent. So Effect Veiler is kinda good in a sense, but if you wanted a negate on the board, basically just go with a copy of Imperm. In the current meta, there are a lot of monster negates rather than a spell and trap negates. Preferably, going with the Imperm is the best choice for you rather than a copy of Effect Veiler. Then we have Evenly Matched. Evenly Matched currently and after the meta is going to be good. It breaks boards if you're going on second. And that usually is up against Brandeds, Tier Elements, and possibly Cashtira's. So even Cashtira's, once it's going to be coming out by next month, Evenly Matched can actually dissect or destroy the board for that matter. Gamma. So Gamma next, we're gonna put this one on situational. Not every deck can benefit from a Gamma. I think if you really wanted a monster negate, you just basically go with Imper, because there are downsides with Gamma also. So the first thing is you can only run 2 copies of this. This would be much better if you run 3 copies though. So if Konami adds an additional copy of Gamma, that would be really good. But as of now, 2 copies of Gamma, even after the ban list, it's gonna be quite hard to get a hold of this. And by the time you get a copy of Gamma, you already have a monster on the board, which of course doesn't really work well if you have a monster on the board. Also, there is a problem with the driver as well. If you draw into this, or you got this card during your starting hand, so that's one garnet card that you don't want to see in your hand or on your starting hand. Ghost Bell and Haunted Mansion. I'm gonna put this one on decent. This is one of the best cards that can negate the activation of Called by the Grave. Alongside Cross of Designator though. So Ghost Bell can be good after the ban list against tier elements. So if they're trying to fuse a monster, then you can just drop a copy of Ghost Bell. For Kashtirias and Purelease, not much will be used in the graveyard, since for the Purelease, they absorb their spell cards. So I'm not sure if Ghost Bell is going to be playable against them. Kashtirias, on the other hand, doesn't really work with the graveyard, because majority of the time they'll banish their cards rather than putting them in the graveyard. So I'm going to put this one on decent, but not really situational or even meta. Then we have Moonlit Chill. Somewhat of a good card. I'm going to put this one on decent. Having to negate effect and burn your opponent if ever that card leaves is really good. I think having a copy of Moonlit Chill would be somewhat reliable in some of the decks, but not all. That's why I'm going to put this one on decent. Then we have Nibiru. Nibiru is practically situational even after the ban list. So we still have tier elements that doesn't really care if you drop a copy of Nibiru. Brandeds just have 4 summons in total during their combo. I don't think they exceed 5 card summons. I think this would be better against Dragon Links, possibly, and the deck of Sword Souls. Possibly they can work with Kashtirias. What else? Purely doesn't really go well with Purelease, because Purelease only summon like once or twice on a turn. So yeah, it's gonna be situational. Skullmiser. Although the effect of negating 1 card in the graveyard is really good, but majority of the time, all of the effects are on the field or on the hand. So I'm not sure about this. If you want negate, I think you're better off having a copy of Ghost Bell. Then you have Snow Rabbit. I'm gonna put Snow Rabbit on decent. So there are some cards that you can pop with the effect of Snow Rabbit even after the ban list. So if ever Kashtirias is gonna be coming in the game by next month, you can pop their field spell if they're trying to search out a Kashtira card. The Birth is a really good card to destroy as well. Very significant for the Kashtira deck. For the Purelease, on the other hand, we have also My Friend Purely, which is the continuous spell. You can pop that one once they activate it. Really strong effect. They also have the field spell that adds more materials to their exit monster. I think that is one reliable card that you need to pop as well for the Purely archetype. For the current meta after the ban list, tier elements, you can pop the Pillarino, but I don't think popping tier elements would be like really beneficial for you. Branded, I think that would be somewhat good. Sprite also bows down to a copy of Snow Rabbit when you try to use the Gigantic Sprite effect. So I think that is a really strong card up against Sprite. And then we have the last card. So we have Winter Cherries. So Winter Cherries, I think you're far better off using this during a tournament, wherein majority of the time you will see what your opponent is using, dissecting your opponent's extra deck for that matter. But so I don't think Winter Cherries is going to be like really reliable. But yeah, that is the tiers for you for hand traps. So tell me your thoughts on the hand traps. So these are one of the best hand traps that you can use after the ban list, and even when Kashtira and the Purelease are gonna come out. So yeah, tell me your thoughts, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.